Jay, for the first time ever, we're not matching. This is weird, man. We're wearing different shoes.
I know.
We're wearing totally different outfits.
Gray shoes and white soles. What
Well,
have I become?
dude, it's fun. It's fun getting to hang back in the studio today.
Man.
We both used to work here together, and I miss that.
Yeah.
But hey, you're only like a mile away, so it's
Yep.
all good. Man, there's been this huge conversation in our country happening with racism, and it's just been wild, man.
Yeah, man. It's crazy that everything has lasted so long, because usually when stuff like this happens, I feel like it dies down in like a week or two, but
Yeah.
the conversations are still happening, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, as I've been hearing this conversation, I kind of realized that you and I have been having these conversations for like 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we started playing in a band together and Ghost Ship together over 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
we've spent many late nights talking about racism in America. So I thought it'd be cool to just like share that conversation, take a moment to share our own stories with people and how this has affected us, you know?
Yeah, man.
Well, the first question I wanted to ask you is what are some of your earliest memories of racism in America?
Earliest memories. I would go all the way back to when I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 5 years old. We moved to Lakewood, Tacoma area, and it's a very diverse area, but still, I remember I couldn't speak English. I was in kindergarten, and I remember other kids coming up to me to ask me what my name was, and I could recall that, like, what's your name? I learned that in English, and I would say, my name is Chae, and they would repeat back to me these phrases like ching chong or stuff like that, and then they would make the chink eyes at me, and at the time, in that context, I had no idea what was happening, and I would just smile or laugh and then move on. But just looking back, I'm like, wow, that was pretty nasty. Yeah.
That's rough, man. And did that kind of stuff continue like into high school, you know, as you got older?
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine and I, in 7th grade, we had just had lunch and we were going out to recess. You still get recess in 7th grade. And I remember behind me a guy just yelling out, "Hey, yellow monkey." And I turn around and my buddy and I, the guy was bigger than us, so we were like, oh, just ignore him, just keep walking. And he just kept yelling out, "Hey, yellow monkey, come over here." And we just kept ignoring him. And then we found the closest teacher to stand by because we were both scared about it. But yeah, and then going into high school, I remember, so I used to hang out with a bunch of skaters, and I didn't feel like I fit in with just, I don't know, sports people or I wasn't really rich, and the preppy guys were this, and it was very compartmentalized in groups of people, and so I felt like I fit in with the skater bunch more, and not a lot of Asians in that group of people. So I would get comments from my friends that I skate with. They would say stuff like, "Man, you're so cool, Chae. You don't even seem Asian." And I'm like, yeah, what?
Man.
And then I quickly realized, growing up in my young age, I'm like, it's not cool to be Asian, so I have to be everything but Asian. So I had this identity crisis. And
So if you think back to those years when you were younger, like how did that make you feel? How did you feel in those moments?
I felt like, because I try to move away from being quote unquote Asian, I turned my back on the Korean American, Asian American community. So I felt like I didn't fit in with them. And I felt like, okay, I can act this way, I can act not Asian, but I'm Asian, so I don't fit in with them. And I just felt completely alone. I think most of my high school years, I felt completely alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's heavy. What are some of your most recent memories of racism in America?
Yeah, dude, you were there. We were in Nashville. We were on
Oh,
tour.
yeah. Oh, man.
And we had just gotten to the hotel room after playing just the most killer show in Nashville. We
Yeah,
had so much
that was
fun at
awesome.
that show. And then it was a big party. And then we're on a high. We pack up our van, go to our hotel, and the other band members are in their rooms, and you and I are going out to park the van or something.
Yeah, we're like unloading gear. I remember that.
Yeah. And then this ride share, Uber or Lyft or whatever they were in, shows up to the hotel.
I remember them all like falling out of the car.
Yeah, the
and
doors
we're like,
open.
Oh no.
They literally spill out of the car.
Yeah.
It's just really drunk people spilling out. And one of the guys comes up to us and starts heckling us because he found out that he sees musical equipment and he's asking us to play for him. And then under his breath, he starts muttering stuff like ching chong or chink, and then he makes the chink eyes at me.
Yeah.
And we were both
I remember
staring at him. And we're like, what is happening right now? Like, who is this guy? Is this even for real? So I just felt like, okay, the guy is drunk, obviously, so whatever, I don't care.
But then they like kept
And,
following us. Like we
Yeah.
tried to just walk away, but then they like followed us in the hotel.
Yeah.
And then we're like, all right, let's take a side door. And then, because I was wanting to get away because I didn't want you to like use your taekwondo skills against the guy. So I was like, I didn't want a major fight to break out. Let's just go this way.
Yeah.
But then, sure enough, like we try to get in the elevator, and they're all there, still, still
man.
going off.
And even after, so we wait. They go up in the elevator. We take the elevator after them. They're on the same floor as us. And he does it again. So, I was heated. I was pretty angry at that point.
Man, I have to admit, so you and I have talked about this a lot. Like, you grew up in Tacoma where you were experiencing racial tension throughout your childhood. I grew up in South Georgia. So for me, I feel like I've experienced racial tension in every stage of my life, looking back. So it's never, it never really surprises me when I encounter racism in this country, just because I saw it growing up all the time. But man, I have to admit, like after that show that night, I was just like struck by the fact that, because this was a few months ago.
Yeah.
But my thought was like, when we got back to the hotel room, I remember we talked about it, I was like, it's still happening, Yeah. I mean, it's still going on. The stuff you experienced when you were a kid, the stuff I observed when I was a kid, it's like happening months ago. And that was pretty wild.
And then we talked about this, like every time we're on tour and we're in a very rural area where I know there's not a lot of diversity. Every time we make a stop at a gas station or for food, my defenses go up because once I get out of this van and go into that area, what am I going to encounter? That's constantly on the back of my mind. Main reason I think I'm an a-hole on tour.
And I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's pretty tense for me. And then, but there's also this. That's when we're touring in the Deep South. The same thing happens in Seattle. It's just, it looks different, but sometimes the same.
Yeah.
I was riding my bike the other day, and a car rolls up next to me, rolls down their window, and they just yell out, chink. So even though I face these like name calling me chink or gook or yellow monkey, all those things, I've never felt like I was ever in danger. I never felt like these people are actually going to hurt me because of racism. It was just name calling. It hurts, but it was name calling. I've never been afraid to be pulled over, or I've never feared for my life in a certain scenario. So, man, I faced racism, But the things that our black brothers and sisters are facing right now is just, I can't imagine what they are going through in that. Yeah.
Man, so what in this tension that you live in, the pain of this whole thing, what is it that brings you comfort in the midst of all this?
I talked about back in high school, I felt very alone in all of this. And man, the thing that brings me comfort is that we are not alone in this. Obviously, there are people that support us, there are people that love us, and there are family around us. So we're never really alone. But at the same time, I'm really not alone because Jesus walks with me in this. And that Jesus has gone through this. He was unjustly accused. He was unjustly put to death on the cross. And he knows what I go through. He knows the pain of everything that our black brothers and sisters are going through right now. So the main thing I can say for myself in comfort and for people encountering systemic racism on a daily basis, you are not alone. Jesus walks with you. He knows your pain. He knows what you are going through. So,
Man.
yeah, man.
Dude, amen.